Hello, my name is Kimberly Chamberlain, and I'm here to talk to you about a virtual reality field trip that I have planned for my curriculum and design project, due for my final project for my new medias and literacies class here at Empire State College. So, what I've decided to do is a virtual trip to Washington, D.C., and I wanted to go over the reasons why. Right now, in our curriculum, we have our students writing a narrative story on a trip to Washington, D.C. that they take. And what they're supposed to use as resources are reading materials and brochures. And what I found was that my students just were not taking those reading experiences and turning it into an authentic experience for themselves. Therefore, they were really struggling to come up with a great narrative story for their trip, as well as descriptive details and emotions and feelings that you would see in a narrative story. They were really lacking. So I thought, how can I do this so that I can make this experience better for my students and give them that opportunity to have authentic learning experiences that would bring them to better writing? So we are going to go on a virtual field trip to Washington, D.C. Virtual reality is going to offer my students the opportunity to go to places where they wouldn't be able to go normally. We are a small district in upstate New York. We don't have a lot of resources. Therefore, taking them on a trip to Washington, D.C. is probably out of the picture for them. But through this virtual reality, I can actually send them to Washington, D.C. and have these experiences, and it'll be more meaningful and authentic for them. Students will be touring Washington, D.C. using computers and iPads on their own and at their own pace, and they'll get to see memorials and monuments firsthand. And they'll have the opportunity to see these places with a beautiful sunshiny day rather than having to deal with any bad weather. And they'll get to go up to them and actually make connections to them. A timeline for this project. So we'll be starting with virtual lessons that we will use to help learn how to use the technology before we actually go on our field trip. So I'll actually have every student with a computer, and they'll be able to go through and learn how to use the technology. Then we'll be doing station rotations, as we don't have one-to-one devices in our classroom. So we'll be doing station rotation to help make sure that everybody has the opportunity to travel on this trip. Students will be going to Washington, D.C. on their own. It's going to be very engaging. They'll be able to fill out their graphic organizers with knowledge that they're learning, and then they'll be able to take that information and turn it into their story. So station rotations are the only way that we'll be able to do this in my classroom, because right now I only have 8 devices available for my students and I have 20 students in my class. So students will be working through 30-minute sessions a day, 30 minutes through reading the materials through brochures, and they'll also have 30 minutes on virtual reality. And then they'll use as many days as they need to gather their information. And as they're doing that, I'll be walking around the room, observing and offering feedback to students as they're working. How I'm going to assess this is going to be through a series of rubrics. So we're going to use a rubric for their narrative story. They're also going to be asked to build a diorama of their favorite monument. And in addition to that, they will also be assessed on how well they were able to fill out the questionnaires and the graphic organizers that they used during the virtual reality process. And then they'll have an opportunity to reflect. So they'll be able to look at what they did, and they'll be able to answer the questions: what did I learn from this experience? Is virtual reality a good way to learn about places and travel? And would I want to do something like this again? So some places where we're actually going to get to use this technology. So I found this great website. It's on the National Park Service. It is interactive. This is the Lincoln Memorial. So I can actually turn anywhere I want in this building and follow green arrows and go through, and I can see anything that's in green I can look at. Tells me I can zoom on things. I can read the entire Gettysburg Address. I can go back out, and I can also go outside and stand on the steps looking in, and I can look up and around as well. It's as if I'm right there. This website is available for me to use at any point, and so my students can always go on this beautiful sunny day and see the Lincoln Memorial. The next place that they'll be going is uvisit.com. Uvisit.com also has a virtual tour of Washington, D.C. This is the Jefferson Memorial. It's not as interactive as the Lincoln Memorial in that there's no green arrows that I can click on, but I can click on these pictures off here to the right and I can actually see Thomas Jefferson inside his memorial. I can read things on the wall. I can stop and look around. And again, it's a beautiful sunny day. So bringing Washington, D.C. into my classroom, I think is going to give my students a more authentic and meaningful experience, and with which they'll be able to write more descriptive and just better overall essays and narrative stories than they had been writing before by just using reading materials. I'm excited about virtual reality field trips. I also teach a rainforest unit in my classroom, and I've already found great websites and great resources available to take them actually into the rainforest as well. So these are all great resources that I know my students will have a much more engaging learning experience using. So I'm very excited to have this technology available and be able to use it going forward. Thank you very much.